The morning Emily Carter opened her college acceptance letter. She didn't know it would become the day her childhood finally ended. The envelope was thick, official, and impossible to ignore. It had arrived with the quiet confidence of something that was meant to change a life. Emily stood in the hallway of her family's suburban Ohio home, staring at her name printed neatly on the front, her heart racing so fast it almost hurt. This was it. Years of late nights, extra classes, and silent sacrifices had led to this single moment. She tore it open with shaking hands. Congratulations! She didn't even finish reading before the tears came. Happy, overwhelming tears. She pressed the letter to her chest and laughed out loud, the sound echoing through the house. Eastbridge University, a private college in Massachusetts. One of the best programs in her field. The kind of school people talked about with pride. This had always been the plan. Ever since she was 10, her father had talked about the college fund. It was almost a family legend. Every birthday, every holiday, every milestone came with the same reassurance. That money is for you. Don't worry. Your future is covered. Her father, Robert Carter, wasn't a bad man. He worked hard, wore tired smiles, and believed good intentions counted for something. Emily had trusted him completely. Why wouldn't she? He was her dad. She ran into the kitchen where her parents were drinking coffee. "I got in," she said, breathless. "Eastbridge." "I got in." Her mother jumped up and hugged her. Her father smiled, but Emily noticed something strange. His smile was slow, careful, almost forced. "That's great," he said. "Really great." The moment passed quickly, but the feeling stayed. 2 days later, Emily sat at the dining table with tuition papers spread out in front of her. Deadlines were close. Numbers were big, but she wasn't afraid. She had the fund. "The promise, Dad," she said casually. "We'll need to transfer the college money soon. The first payment is due next week." Robert froze. Just for a second. Just long enough for Emily to notice. "Yeah," he said. "Of course. I'll check on it tomorrow." Tomorrow came. Then another. Then another. Each time Emily asked, the answer changed slightly. The bank was slow. The paperwork was confusing. He was busy at work. Something always stood in the way. The excitement in her chest began to tighten into worry. One evening, her mother knocked on her bedroom door. Her face looked tired in a way Emily had never seen before. "Can we talk?" her mother asked. They sat on the bed side by side. The silence felt heavy. "Emily," her mother said softly, "your dad didn't tell you because he was scared." Emily's stomach dropped. "Tell me what?" Her mother took a deep breath. "The college fund. It's gone." The words didn't make sense at first. They floated in the air, empty and unreal. "Gone how?" Emily asked. "He used it," her mother said. "To pay his loans?" Emily felt like the room tilted. "All of it." Her mother nodded, tears filling her eyes. "He thought he could replace it before you needed it." The business struggled. Credit cards piled up. He panicked. Emily stood up so fast the bed shook. "No," she said. "That's not possible. He promised. He promised me." Robert appeared in the doorway, drawn by raised voices. His shoulders slumped as soon as he saw Emily's face. "It wasn't easy," he said quickly. "I did what I had to do." Emily turned to him, disbelief burning in her eyes. "You spent my future." "Watch your tone," he snapped, then softened. "Family comes first. I was trying to protect us." Emily laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You protected yourself, for the first time in her life." She saw her father not as a hero or provider, but as a man who made choices and chose himself. That night, Emily lay awake staring at the ceiling. Her acceptance letter lay folded on her desk, suddenly feeling like a cruel joke. She had done everything right. She had trusted. She had believed. And now she was stuck. She picked up her phone without thinking and scrolled through her contacts until she stopped at a familiar name. Daniel Brooks. He had been her neighbor growing up. Her first crush. her first heartbreak. They had drifted apart after high school. But something about his name still felt safe. She typed slowly. I got into Eastbridge. The reply came almost instantly. That's amazing. I knew you would. Her fingers hovered, then continued. I might not be able to go. This time his response took longer. What happened? Emily told him everything. The fund, the silence, the betrayal. She didn't try to sound strong. She didn't try to sound brave. She just told the truth. I'm coming home this weekend, Daniel wrote. We'll talk. When they met at a small cafe downtown, Emily almost didn't recognize him. He looked older, calmer. Life had clearly shaped him, but his eyes were still kind. I feel stupid, Emily said after telling him everything again. I trusted him. You weren't stupid, Daniel said. You were a kid who believed her dad. His words loosened something inside her chest. I don't know what to do now, she whispered. The deadline is coming. I can't afford it. Daniel leaned forward. There are scholarships, emergency aid, work programs. It won't be easy, but it's not impossible. Emily shook her head. I don't want to beg. I don't want to owe anyone. Daniel smiled gently. Then don't owe them. Owe yourself. That night, Emily sat at her desk and opened her laptop. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She applied. She searched. She planned. Something had broken, but something stronger was forming in its place. Downstairs, Robert watched his daughter's bedroom light stay on long past midnight. For the first time, guilt began to creep in. Not loud guilt, quiet guilt, the kind that whispers. But Emily didn't hear it. She was already moving forward, and she would never be the same again. The day Emily Carter stepped onto the Eastbridge campus, she realized she had arrived not just at a university, but at the start of a life she had built entirely on her own. The crisp autumn air filled her lungs, and the red brick buildings stood proud, elegant, and unyielding, much like the resolve she had developed over the past months. Every step she took across the cobblestone paths reminded her of what she had lost and what she had earned: independence, determination, and the quiet satisfaction of proving herself. Her first weeks were grueling. Without the college fund her father had promised, Emily had to work twice as hard. Mornings began before sunrise at a local cafe, carrying trays and serving customers with a smile, even when her legs ached and her head throbbed from lack of sleep. Afternoons were spent in crowded lecture halls, scribbling notes, and fighting to keep up with peers whose families had poured money into tutors, test prep, and prep schools. Evenings were devoted to the library, where Emily memorized textbooks and wrote essays until the words blurred. There were moments of despair when she wanted to give up, to pick up the phone and call her father. But she didn't. She wouldn't. She had promised herself that, this time, she would succeed without anyone rescuing her. Through it all, Daniel Brooks was a lifeline. He kept in constant contact, checking in, offering advice, even visiting on weekends. But he never solved her problems for her. Instead, he taught her a lesson more valuable than money: resilience. He helped her find scholarships she didn't even know existed, guided her through financial aid applications, and connected her to mentors who saw her potential. Slowly, the pieces fell into place. Emily's grades were outstanding, her social circles supportive, and her confidence, once shaken, began to solidify into something almost unshakable. She was no longer just the girl who trusted blindly. She was someone who could stand alone and shine. Meanwhile, back home, Robert Carter was learning a harsh lesson of his own. Without Emily's college fund, his financial situation didn't magically improve. Loans had been paid, yes, but debts piled up again, one after another. Calls from creditors became frequent, letters stacked on the counter, and for the first time, he felt powerless. His relationship with Emily began to fray. She answered his calls less and less, her responses polite but distant. He realized too late that the bond he had taken for granted was slipping through his fingers. The daughter who once looked up to him was now building a life where he had no place. And the realization stung deeper than any financial loss ever could. Emily, meanwhile, thrived in the face of adversity. She learned to budget, to prioritize, and to ask for help without shame. She discovered the pride of standing on her own 2 feet. The absence of her father's support became a driving force, a silent fire that fueled her ambition. By the end of her first semester, she had secured enough scholarships and part-time work to cover tuition for the following year. The impossible had become possible, and she had done it with her own hands. Each paycheck she earned, each academic award she received, was a quiet declaration. She was not defined by her father's mistakes. Daniel stayed by her side, but their connection deepened beyond friendship. Late-night study sessions turned into walks through the campus gardens. Shared coffee breaks became long conversations about dreams and regrets. And small gestures of care built an unspoken intimacy between them. Emily found herself laughing more freely, sleeping more peacefully, and feeling something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years: hope. It wasn't a loud, dramatic romance. It was gentle, patient, and understanding, a love that grew in the spaces between ambition and recovery. Over the next few years, Emily flourished. She became a top student in her program, presenting research at conferences and gaining recognition from professors and peers alike. She joined clubs, mentored younger students, and developed leadership skills that would serve her far beyond the campus. Each achievement reminded her of the sacrifices she had made and the strength she had discovered. Daniel remained a constant. A partner not just in love, but in the shared vision of building a future that neither of them had been handed on a silver platter. Back in Ohio, Robert's situation worsened. He watched as Emily's accomplishments were celebrated on social media, in newsletters, and among family friends. Pride and regret collided inside him. Every message from her showed grace, maturity, and independence, qualities he had undermined by emptying her college fund. When he finally called, asking for help during a financial crisis, the reaction he received was calm, composed, and unwavering. Emily listened, weighing the request, but she no longer felt obligated. She had learned that enabling poor choices doesn't fix anything, it only delays the consequences. And she had no interest in repeating patterns that had cost her so dearly. "I learned something from you, Dad," she said during that call, her voice steady but soft. "Money choices have consequences, and so do promises. I won't bail you out. I hope you understand that." Robert didn't argue. He didn't yell. The silence that followed was heavier than words could be. For the first time, he felt the full weight of his actions, not just in financial terms, but in emotional ones. He had raised a daughter who was now entirely independent, capable, and successful without him. And it hurt. Emily hung up and exhaled, a quiet victory settling over her. She didn't need to shame him or lash out. Her success was the consequence, her independence the answer. Daniel was there, his hand over hers, and she finally let herself feel complete, not just in career, but in life and love. The city's skyline outside her apartment glowed like a promise, endless and unbroken. The future she had dreamed of since childhood wasn't stolen. It had just been delayed, and it had been worth the wait. She had built herself from the ground up, forged through hardship and heartache, and learned a lesson far more valuable than any college fund could buy: resilience, independence, and the power of creating your own destiny. Her father's betrayal had been painful, but it had shaped her into someone unstoppable. And as she looked at Daniel, smiling, supportive, and proud, she realized that true success wasn't measured in money, but in strength, love, and the ability to rise above the obstacles life put in her path. The years had not been easy, but they had been hers. And for the first time, Emily Carter felt entirely free.